I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Dave Getz. He's a native of Raleigh, North Carolina, and is a retired United States Army officer. His military career included initial service as a military police investigator, both in the United States and overseas, before he returned to North Carolina in 1980 to join the North Carolina National Guard and pursue his degree. He was selected for Officers Candidate School and received his commission as a second lieutenant in 1982 and was the honor grad of his class. He received his bachelor's degree in sociology the following month from North Carolina State University. He is a former assistant professor at NC-A&T State University in Greensboro and has been a reoccurring guest instructor at both the National Guard's Professional Education Center in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and at the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where he has taught courses in organizational effectiveness, military history, personnel management, logistical management, and leadership. He is the past commander of the American Legion Post 187 here in North Carolina. Would you please give a hand to Major Dave?
Thank you very much. I have just 7 lines on the piece of paper here. About being a keynote speaker in front of a crowd like this is the ones who come before you steal all your thunder to say everything you were going to say. I do want to try to bring together all the various comments that you've heard today already. When you look around this crowd, which by my estimation is the largest ever we have ever seen here in Wake Forest for an event like this, you see people wearing the blue hats, as I do, of the American Legion. You see the tan hats of the veterans of foreign wars. You see the red hats of the Marine Corps League. There's usually a contingent from the Coast Guard. I'm sorry I don't see them here today. You got any Coast Guard members in the audience? Coast Guard veterans. Thank you. It is true that in peacetime they do not fall under the Department of Defense, as do the other 4 branches of the military. But trust me, they serve nonetheless. They guard our coastline 24/7, 365. One of the reasons we all come together today, because certainly all of us have other things we could be doing today, is to pay homage to those who have paid that ultimate price for our freedom. What is it that actually gives the value to their sacrifice? It is in our remembrance and the values that they stood up for. When we stand in our American Legion meeting every month, we read the preamble to the Constitution of the American Legion. And the first 8 words are, "For God and country, we associate ourselves together." The members of our military are exactly the same. We stood for God and country in uniform, and we stand for God and country today. Unfortunately, we're a generation that was raised to believe that the 2 things you don't talk about in public are religion and politics. And heaven forbid if you use the both of them in the same sentence. Yet it was that very discussion that brought about the founding of this great republic. If you read through the history of the letters between Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Adams, and all the rest, they seem to have talked about little else. I hope that we will honor the memories of those who fought for our freedom by having that same conversation today with the coming generations, so that they do not forget why we stand and fight. I've asked myself, when you think about it, there was no government back then during the Revolution. There was no government, there was no taxes, there was no money. How did they even form an army? It's because people like you had the resources to raise, equip, train, and feed a unit made up of their neighbors. They were people like us who came together and said, we have to stand up against this. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Many people are familiar with those words without understanding the true importance of it. And I am delighted today to look around this audience and see the number of people in attendance under the age of 18. I believe it is our duty to give that added meaning to that phrase they learned in the classroom so they carry it home, not just in their heads, but in their hearts. This is the spirit of America. Joseph Stalin once said that if America could ever be separated from its patriotism, its morality, and its spirituality, it would crumble from within. Today, our military is being assaulted on all three fronts. There are challenges being posed to our military for their patriotism. Is their allegiance to the Constitution, or is it to the Commander-in-Chief? Is it to a person or an ideal? Our chaplaincy is being threatened with prosecution for speaking out about their faith and their morality. We are wrestling in this country with the issue of what it means and what it actually defines us as a civil and decent society. It is a battle we must all engage in. They fought and died not just for our liberty, for us to just do as we choose, but to make sure that we remain standing on that firm foundation so that we could continue to fight the same fight that they did. Ronald Reagan said, freedom isn't passed to the next generation in the bloodstream. It's not handed down. It's not hereditary. We have to hand it down and pass it along. And so I thank each of you that brought your children, your grandchildren along today, because this is what keeps America strong. You heard some talk earlier about the actual practice of Memorial Day, how it came to be. And there was a time when it was a more regulated service. There was more sense of ceremony to it. And last year, our keynote speaker, Brian Raynell, the former British naval officer that spoke, brought this to our attention, and I would like to continue that tradition today and hope it will become a regular part of our annual remembrance. There was the reading of a portion of a poem called An Act of Remembrance. It's 7 short lines, and the last line says, "We will remember them." And I would like to read these 7 lines, and after I conclude and read the last one, I would ask all of you to repeat with me and make that pledge. We will remember them. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them. Thank you.